Hey everyone, I'm Ashley of Ashley Talks Movies. Welcome to my channel. So I wanted to give people time to actually watch Thor: Love and Thunder before I did this video, and this one is going to be a very spoilery, deep discussion into Thor: Love and Thunder. And I brought my friend Eugene along to talk about it. Hi, Eugene.
Hi. Glad to be
So
back.
yeah, I had him on before when we talked about Spider-Man, No Way Home, and so yeah, he's back to talk Thor: Love and Thunder. So uh, before I go to you, Eugene, and talk about the movie, give your review, and then also dive into deep discussion. Really quickly, if you're new to my channel, welcome. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. Also, hit that notification bell so you get notified every time a new video is posted. All right, so enough of the pitches. So Eugene, you've seen Thor: Love and Thunder,
I
and I
did.
just want to know really quickly your overall thoughts on the movie before we dive into a deep discussion.
So I managed to see it twice,
Oh
and I
gosh.
will say somehow, and I will
Yeah.
say it's good,
Hmm.
not great.
Hmm.
I will say that there's a lot of humor.
Hmm.
Obviously, maybe a little too much. Uh, the main character gets a lot of development. I love and respect the journey he's been on. I do feel like a lot of the other characters got pushed to the side,
Hmm.
in order to support the romance that goes on in the film, as we all know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the plot is a little all over the place. I feel like with that too comes the tone, and the tone is very undefined.
Hmm.
But I think if you're looking for a very good, fun uh, comic book movie, you're gonna find that. If you're looking for something a little deeper that we've gotten in the past, well, you're gonna have to keep waiting.
Yeah, so we're pretty much on the same page with this movie, I think, based on what you've just said. Because yeah, I had similar feelings, and I shared those in my uh full review of Thor, and I'll share a link for that in the description. But yeah, we're pretty much on the same page with this. So let's just dive in to a full discussion of this movie because I've been wanting to talk to you about this movie for a while, ever since I watched it. Basically, I walked out of the theater. I was like, oh gosh, I gotta talk to Eugene about this.
Right?
So fair warning for anybody that's watching this video, we're going to talk spoilers. So if you haven't seen Thor: Love and Thunder, or you just want to avoid spoilers, please stop watching this video right now. This is going to be your final warning because we're going to talk about this movie in depth, and I don't want to spoil it for
Yeah,
anybody.
but come back after you watch the movie.
Yes, yes, please, yeah, don't don't stop watching the video and then go
Yeah.
away and never come back. Yes, please come back. Thanks, Eugene. All right, so here we go. Spoilers. So I gave
Okay.
fair warning. So let's first talk about. So we'll talk about basically uh where Thor is in this movie. Okay, because it starts off with he's basically with the Guardians. He's kind of been on this journey. He's not quite sure where he fits in terms of like a
Mhm.
superhero, and he's kind of ready to give it all up. And then basically he's brought back into the fold with Gore the God Butcher, played by Christian
Mhm.
Bale, showing up, and also with Natalie Portman returning as Jane Foster, also for this movie, aka the Mighty Thor.
The
Um,
Mighty
so
Thor.
I thought that was an interesting story to tell, but I'm not quite sure with all the different storylines if it meshed well together. And you kind of referenced this in your review. I felt like those storylines were just all over the place, and in many ways, it felt like some of those storylines could have been their own individual movie, if that makes
R-
sense.
Right, and and what really made Ragnarok stand out when we
Mhm.
first saw it was a good buddy cop movie.
Mhm.
You had Thor, Hulk, and then obviously Valkyrie, who was awesome in that movie.
Yes.
Really pushed the plot. You had Jeff Goldblum as well, and it was
Mhm.
full. It was fun, and it was a new look, a different take on Thor. But it knew when to slow down for those emotional parts. I know, like we had a Hella, and a lot of um, things happened in that movie
Mhm.
too. We lost some people, but
Mhm.
it I feel like it found those moments to slow down, and it it was able to pick up later on in the film with the humor and kind of go lighter. I felt like with this, it was, I mean, you had Jane who was dealing with a cancer diagnosis. You have
Yeah, right?
Gore
Like a
the God
super
Butcher.
serious,
Right, a
situation.
super serious story. You have Gore the God Butcher. I mean, you what a name,
Mhm.
first of all.
Well,
I
what
mean,
an
those
introduction, because I mean, literally the first scene of this movie is Gore's story, his whole backstory as to why he is going to be doing the things that he's doing.
yeah.
And it's so sad. It's like
And
so
I will
sad.
say an awesome cold open too to this
Yes.
movie. And I really think that set a tone that we didn't revisit until probably 2/3 of the way through the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think we even got close to that tone, quote unquote, until they went to the dark dimension. What was it called? The
Mhm.
Shadow
Mhm.
Realm.
Mhm.
And I feel like that was just a huge missed opportunity because Gore is such an interesting character,
Yeah.
uh, and he just felt very underutilized.
And you have Christian Bale, who's like a fantastic actor playing this
Yeah,
character.
yeah,
It just and I think, you mentioned Ragnarok, and it's one of my favorite Thor movies.
mhm,
Um, and like you said, it was able to balance those tonal shifts a lot better than this movie. And it's not to say you can't have comedy and drama together. You can, you absolutely can. But with Thor: Love and Thunder, it felt like, to me, almost like a spoof. It was like you had a very serious moment to start off this movie, and then the rest of it is just joke after joke after joke. Even when you have serious moments, Taika Waititi, who I think is a great director, and he did Ragnarok, and he returned for Thor: Love and Thunder, didn't let those moments breathe. And I feel
right.
like that gives you that emotional balance. Again, you want these characters, if they're having these really serious moments, to have those emotional beats. And this movie, I didn't get that, because it just was like, even if you had a slightly serious moment, it was like there's another joke ready to,
Yeah,
to
it
undercut those moments.
yeah, it felt like, especially when it came with the jokes, there were certain moments where it just kind of, you can feel it in the movie where it paused for
Mhm.
audience applause.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
I think there was a spot that made me laugh out loud when I was in the theater. It was when
yeah.
Kat Denning sits down next to Jane and she kind of looks around and goes, you could that's an obvious pause for the audience, and then
Right, right.
there's certain jokes. I mean, here's the thing though too. Chris Hemsworth is great at delivering those jokes. He's so
Mhm,
charismatic. You can tell it's one of those actors who enjoys and loves the role, but it
mhm.
just doesn't do anything. And also, the movie feels like a parody, like you said, a parody of itself,
Yeah.
almost to the level of those plays that they were putting on in Ragnarok
Yeah,
and
which
this.
I mean, and that's the thing, like, that moment, again, was very similar to the Ragnarok moment.
Mhm.
Um, but it worked because it's supposed to be silly and funny, but then the rest of the movie felt just the same way. And it was nice to see those cameos, like Matt Damon returning, Luke Hemsworth, Chris Hemsworth's brother, playing fake Thor, and then also Melissa McCarthy, which I feel like that was her best role in many years, because I haven't liked any of her movies she's had lately.
Yeah.
Um,
But even with that, it just felt, I mean, you were just still getting a recap of Ragnarok,
yeah,
which is that Taika just reminding us, "Oh, by the way, I gave you this movie."
yeah.
Yeah, and, and then we already had, his friend, I'm sorry, who's his best friend, played by Taika?
Oh, Korg.
Korg,
Yes,
recapping
had
the
a
whole
lot of
trilogy
Korg.
for us. Yeah, recapping the first trilogy. I mean, it was just a lot of recap and a lot of callbacks to
But
things we already
also
know.
but also, did you feel like, I don't know, for me, that felt so out of place, because, again, I keep going back to the beginning of the movie where you have this really serious Gore the God Butcher introduction, right?
Mhm.
And then, you have the Marvel logo, and then you go into Korg giving this, like, fairy tale type story of a, god named Thor who's been again, it was like, okay, I guess this is gonna be a comedy, like a full-on comedy, but again, it just, the tones of everything else
Right.
that's happening in this movie, I don't know, that didn't work for me at
Right.
all, but,
It felt very hills and valleys with
yeah,
the way it went.
yeah,
You have a cold open like that, which is very intense.
mhm,
Like I said, it was awesome, but then you rise up and have this comedic scene where he's doing the splits and fighting off this army, then
Yeah.
you go down. But
He's, like,
I think it's
riding his, hammer not hammer, was it Stormbreaker as, like like a
yeah,
witch, like,
yeah,
on
and
a
I feel
broom.
like that's a formula that Marvel is struggling with, is that it's Marvel-isms where it's some they
Mhm.
put too much light-hearted things into their movies. I think there it should have been fun and lighthearted to begin with, just to kind of establish and introduce uh everything that Thor's lifestyle and how he's going. But then it needs to get to a point where we need to see gods being butchered by gore.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that because that was gonna be my so, like, it's interesting that it's Gore the God Butcher, and he butchers one god,
Yeah,
I think, in the entire movie. Everything else is sort of, like, off screen. So
everything's
that was another
implied.
thing, like, the presence of gore wasn't really there, and it's like, I'd rather
Hmm.
you show me that stuff than tell me. Like, don't tell
Yep.
me Gore is awful. Don't tell me, like, because that was a lot of it too, like, some exposition and, like, who Gore is, and different characters are explaining him and what's going on, and what he's after. It's like, show me. Show
Yep.
me. It's a movie.
Well,
Show me.
it's like you said too. It's almost like they didn't know what they wanted the movie to be, and it's like it could have been two different films.
Yeah.
We had a romantic comedy at one point. I mean, the Mighty Thor
Yeah.
could have been its own movie, and that's what I
Yeah.
said when I came out of the theater. Is that this felt like a romantic comedy with a villain kind of just
Tacked
shoehorned
on.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I almost wish because we were talking about this earlier, um, before we started doing the video. We were talking about the Marvel shows and how, the quality of the Marvel shows have been great recently. And then you get to the movies and it's kind of like, they don't quite know what they're doing. But it's like I
Mhm.
almost wish, especially with Jane Foster Mighty Thor storyline. Maybe they could have done like a mini series with her, like bringing her back and do like 6 episodes of that storyline. So then by the time we get to Thor Love and Thunder, she's already established. So then it's like when she meets back up with Thor, she's already been the mighty Thor. Does that make sense? Because
Right.
it's felt like,
Right.
and we saw these moments in the trailer, where she was revealed. But so when you watch it in the movie, though, it feels like that's supposed to be a really big moment, right? Because the way it's set
Right.
up, that
Right.
moment's supposed
Right.
to be that wow moment. Everybody's supposed to be cheering and clapping, and it was like, oh, I've already seen this in the trailers. Like it doesn't have that big impact that it would have if it was done differently. And I feel like you know if we had already established that character, with that storyline, that would have cut out a lot of that early part of the film.
And
And then it was like, okay, yeah, she's Thor, and Thor's been off doing this other thing, and he didn't even realize that she's been doing this. And now he's come back. She can help out. They've got this big villain that they can take on. That would have, I think that would have felt, more powerful.
right. And that's what I thought these Disney Plus shows were going to do from the very beginning.
Hmm.
It's great that we're getting characters like Miss Marvel being introduced. We're adding a lot
Hmm.
more in diversity into the universe, but they're actually creating a lot more questions and
Hmm.
open-ended threads than they are answers. I mean, gosh, you look at we look at every show and movie that's been put out so far. They haven't resolved anything or connected themselves in any way.
Hmm.
And like you said, you make a very great point about Jane. Like, how great would it have been to get a mini series, even 4 episodes, even
Yeah, just
three,
something.
a mini series to lead into these movies, which are going to be your money makers.
Right. Because it's
I mean,
not a knock against Natalie Portman because she's fantastic, and I liked her as the Mighty Thor,
mhm,
but with her storyline in this movie, so much felt like it was left on the cutting room floor. It was so
yeah,
jarring how quickly her story was. It was like, okay, we go back, we're introducing Jane, she's undergoing cancer treatment, and then the next thing you know, quick cut, some other stuff happens. We're back to Jane, and now she's trying to find a cure. It happens in like 5 seconds. Then she gets the call, okay, and then she heads to New Asgard.
hmm
Quick cut, and then she's standing there, and then suddenly, next thing we know, she's Mighty Thor. We didn't get to see that transformation, and it was unclear the timeline because when Thor comes back and he realizes that she's now the mighty Thor, Valkyrie says something along the lines like, "Oh yeah, she does that now," or something. So it's like she's been there a while, don't know how long, um,
Right.
doing that. She's still a little rusty, so she's not she's still new at it, but it
Mhm.
was like, well, how long has she been there? How long has she been Thor? And like have questions. And it
Yep.
would have been like so much easier if that was already established prior to this movie.
Right.
And then you could have just jumped straight into Thor finding out that she's the mighty Thor. We, the audience, already
Mhm.
know this.
Yep.
But to get his reaction, and then you can cut out some of that extra stuff. And then that leaves some room for, and I'm segueing into this next topic. I want to talk segues. It opens up room for other characters to be more developed because I felt like in this movie, Valkyrie took a huge backseat. And it was such a
Mhm.
shame because I really liked that character in Ragnarok and Tessa Thompson's great. And then here, especially like in the third act, I mean, it was like, why even have her in the movie? Because she's
Yeah.
barely in it. And she's supposed to be like King Valkyrie.
King
And you
Valkyrie,
kind of get
yeah.
some quick snippets. She's doing a commercial. She's like, I don't want to be the boss. And like, okay, we're gonna fight. And oh man.
Yeah, and then you have a character like Korg too. I mean, yeah, he was a very minimal character in
Hmm.
Ragnarok, but he also took a step back too. And there is a lot of other characters uh, that were also introduced out of nowhere. Like we have Heimdall's son, which was just
Right.
kind of just, oh, hello, Heimdall's son, who also
Yeah.
has the same powers as his father.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, okay, that okay, I guess he exists in this.
Yeah,
He
yeah, yeah.
exists now. We
Yeah.
had no clues, nothing queuing us into that. But that is very frustrating when you have a character like that. And Gore uh, tortures her about losing her sisters and
Mhm,
and the other Valkyrie women
mhm,
years ago. I mean, but that's something you don't know about. I mean, that's a callback an hour and a half in the movie
mhm.
that we didn't even know was like an actual emotional arc she was going through.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's frustrating. And it's all sacrificed for the romance. I get it, and we totally get it. We understand that you want to rekindle this and give Jane her send off, but we
Mhm.
can't also forget the characters that brought us to along with the journey too. We can't just
Right,
abandon them on this journey.
right. Yeah, and that's and that was a choice.
It was a
I
choice,
could have
yeah.
done without the rom-com aspect, honestly. Yeah, we got some new characters introduced too, like, Russell Crowe's Zeus, which
Mhm.
I don't know what accent he was doing.
And I was I actually I can't I said I can't decide if his accent is good or offensive. I just
Yes.
couldn't I
Well, it
couldn't
was like
decide.
it's like, is he
Like, no,
doing
or
an
not good. I
Italian
mean,
accent or is it
yeah,
supposed to be Greek? And if
yeah,
so, it's bad for either because I don't
yeah.
um, it
And
was
this
it
guy
was
is an
almost
Oscar
like
winner too.
yeah, I was waiting for like, I don't know, it felt like he was trying to like mimic Mario, but like, I don't know,
Yeah, it did feel
it
like
was
a Mario
questionable.
impression. It didn't feel anything close to Greek or anything of the
Italian or
like.
any I don't know what
Yeah,
he was
yeah,
doing. Yeah,
yeah,
he seemed like he was having fun, but again, that goes into that whole like it was just, like, so silly. It was like, I don't even know if I like this. I don't know. Yeah.
how was your audience, the crowd when you were in the
They
movie?
were, pretty non-responsive. It's like, they
Really?
laughed a few times, but mostly it was kind of like again, like you were talking about, like, there were clear moments where it was supposed to be funny,
Mhm.
"Ha laugh everybody," but people were just kinda like, "Huh?"
Yeah.
I think most people in my showing were pretty similar to me in that I was just taking it in and I was like, I don't really know what I'm watching right now, but yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not sure I like it. Um,
It is just a shame because you have a character like Thor who I think to this point in time, at this point in time, has gone through so much and has
mhm.
lost so much. I was making a point to someone else. I said he has lost someone in every single film
Yeah,
he has been in, and we
yeah,
don't really talk about that trauma.
yeah. And that would have been
And
a good thing to explore with this. Again, if you had, like stepped away from the rom-com, kind of delve a little bit more into the serious aspects. You can still have comedy there, but delve into his trauma, especially because you start off with him being like on this soul searching kind of thing. and then it kind of is quickly abandoned, and then we're running off, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
as much flack as the first film gets, or for how goofy it can be, and the Dutch tilts, um, it did establish a good precedent and foundation for the character. He's in that movie, Thor learns what it takes to be
mhm,
worthy.
right, and there's consequences, and he learns a
Yeah.
lesson, yeah.
A young, arrogant Thor learns what it takes to be human and to be worthy of your of Mjolnir, his hammer. But
Mhm,
he does mention that in this film very, very lightly, oh yeah, you have to be worthy of to be a Thor and things like that. But it's never really revisited.
yeah, yeah,
I would have liked that arc to make a either have a callback or just come full circle with that.
yeah,
Especially, in trailers, and we talk about how he needs to find himself. He talks about he's tired of fighting, he's tired of the wars. Why didn't we get any of that in this film? We got a
yeah,
rom-com.
yeah. Yeah, it's again, so much, like, wasted potential, I think. Man, Thor: Love and Thunder. Anyway,
Yeah.
well, yeah, so, like I said, and both of us said, it's a good movie, it's not great because it just had so much, of potential, but it just didn't quite live up to it. But anyway, Eugene, thanks for joining me,
Yeah.
for another video, really appreciate it. Always nice
Yeah.
to have you on the channel discussing Marvel movies.
As frustrating as they are, we always come back for more, don't we?
Yes, yes. So again, thanks for being here. If you've watched Thor: Love and Thunder and you want to share your thoughts with either of us, you can do so in the comment section below. And while you're here, like this video, hit that thumbs up button, and don't forget to subscribe to see more videos like this.